Welcome to another episode of National Divorce Talk Raw, where we make sure that you are informed about the important news that the mainstream media just won't make sure that you get to know about. Today, we're going to be talking about the outcome of the released Roe v. Wade decision. It is official. The Supreme Court of the United States has said Roe v. Wade would be overturned. And just in the last few days, right before and right after that decision, we have seen a massive uptick in the discussion about violence being used to solve political problems. Not a good sign going into midterms. Things are already divided, and this week they got even more violent. So we'll get right to that in just a second. Pardon me, we just got another piece of news. This just came in. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's get to it. So the point is this. Roe v. Wade was overturned. That decision came out. And in that time, we've seen a lot of discussions of violence. Let me show you the uptick in discussions of violence. Yes, California does not condone violence at all. We are committed to legal, peaceful secession. But this is why we wanted to highlight this to you, that we've been saying division is getting bad. And we've been talking about the possibility of an upcoming civil war. And in just basically the last 48 hours, there's been a massive uptick in violence and suggestions of violence as a reasonable course for solving problems. That is a bad sign. And it could be a window into what's going to come into the future, increasing our point that we must allow national divorce to tone down the tensions before we get to an actual full-blown civil war, or as we talked about the Italian Anna de Pombie Years of Lead, which was kind of a quasi-civil war in Italy that could have resulted in Italy being broken up. Let me show the evidence of how there's now a massive increase in the discussion of violence around political problems. Here we go.
Morris. And this is the show where we hold powerful people to account. We cover the stories that you might not see in the mainstream media. We are independent journalists. So
this is redacted tonight, and they just started talking about this.
We are not. No. We are journalists and avid readers. We will see. On Antarctica, right? Let's start with this. Let's start off talking about Civil War. It's not something that we take lightly. As a student of history, as a history major, this is not something you just throw around like willy-nilly to get some sort of like clicks or views or anything like that. It really isn't. And it's been 2 weeks. If you think about where we are in the context of all of this, it's been about 2 weeks now since a left-wing extremist armed himself and then attempted to assassinate a sitting member of the United States Supreme Court, Justice Kavanaugh. It's been 2 weeks. Can you believe that it's been 2 weeks? And yet President of the United States, Joe Biden, has not yet condemned it, has not denounced it. We'll have more on that in a minute as we kind of go through
neither did anybody from the White House, in fact.
Is that true?
Well, I know that when Jen Psaki was asked about any kind of protesting at Supreme Court justices' houses, she said that, she kind of opened up for that as a possibility.
Like, it's okay. Oh, yeah. In fact, it was the opposite. They were like, well, we're happy about protesting. So if you want to go outside people's houses with firebombs, like that seems to be an okay thing to do, I guess.
Well, but she did say that she believed that leaders should be free from harassment in their homes when it came to the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
And so the White House doesn't seem as concerned about this as we think that they should.
Well, this morning something interesting happened. It caught our attention. It was posted on Twitter. Yeah, you might not have seen it. You probably didn't. But it could only be one of the most, I believe it could be one of the most important moments in American history, and I don't say that lightly. So here it is. This was posted on the SCOTUS blog. SCOTUS blog. The Supreme Court has added another opinion day this week. The court will issue opinions on both Thursday and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Now, it could be nothing, right?
The best way to burn fat is with more.
So, yeah, we're not going to show the ad. You can see that. That was redacted tonight. What they were talking about was the attempted assassination of a Supreme Court justice, and that the President of America could not be brought to condemn it, and the White House itself could not be brought to condemn it. They basically said nothing, almost like it's okay. Here's an article from the Federalist from June 20th. There you go. And this is the interesting part. Federal crimes should be prosecuted by federal authorities. Attorney General Merrick Garland was silent about these protests at the Justice homes when they began. Only recently has he condemned the threats of violence and vowed the Department of Justice would do everything we can to prevent violence against Supreme Court justices. Doing everything they can apparently doesn't include enforcing the directly applicable federal criminal law, since the DOJ has announced no investigations or arrests related to any of these intimidating protests. So you're seeing how we have Supreme Court justices almost executed. And look, I'm not for Roe being overturned, okay? That's not what this is about. This is about America's collapsing and the institutions don't work. You have violence and threats of violence against Supreme Court justices. You have people camped out in front of their home. When they even admitted issued the home addresses for the Supreme Court justices, that was massive overkill. There should have been cops in front of all their yards protecting them. Those addresses should have been struck down. The people who released those should have been investigated by the FBI. And then after a Supreme Court justice was almost killed, the president, the press secretary, the vice president, the attorney general should have all come out and massively condemned that. None of that happened. So what does that say when people can threaten violence against the top legal officers in the country, and the top officers who are elected will say absolutely nothing about it and not condemn it? It sounds like what they're saying is violence is acceptable if you don't like the Roe v. Wade decision. Again, we're not for the Roe v. Wade decision, but we are equally against violence. That's on the left. Now, let me show you what's happening on the right, because it's not just the left. Here we go. This is a new video. This is from our friend at Free California Now.
Have y'all seen this?
I'm Eric Greitens, Navy SEAL, and today we're going rhino hunting. The rhino feeds on corruption and is marked by the stripes of cowardice. Join the MAGA crew. Get a rhino hunting permit. There's no bagging limit, no tagging limit, and it doesn't expire until we save our country.
And to be clear, thanks to Fox News, we actually have a list of targets just for the infrastructure bill alone. Do you notice who's at the top of that list? Yeah, the same guy that just got this letter calling for his execution. There is no quiet part. This is just what it is.
So that's people on the right talking about how it's okay to execute Republicans who they don't believe are hardcore enough. What they call rhinos, Republicans in name only. And they're saying it's a joke, right? But it is a campaign commercial where it seems like they're suggesting it's okay to execute Republicans who aren't as hardcore as them. So you saw something on the left. We're at a place now where highest legal officers can be threatened, and nobody in the federal government will do anything that they're supposed to do to condemn it or protect them. And now you see that on the right, you have one political party saying, it's cool to just shoot and execute members of our party who you don't agree with. Now, the Washington Post recently, looking at Roe v. Wade, said this. Well, they were looking at the Texas secession bill. But this came out this week at the Washington Post, and here is the comment that they made. I want to show you. I'd like to think that our divisions can be bridged through constructive debate in the electoral process, but I'm not optimistic. In light of recent attacks on pregnancy counseling centers and churches, combined with the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol, my fear is that our country is girding for battle. I would like to be optimistic that we can come together and discuss our problems, but I'm not. And I think that our country may be going to battle, aka a civil war. And that is in the Washington Post this much when they're talking about the red-blue divide. Here you go. And now, alas, the country seems bound for a seismic split. As Bacon wrote, many of us now live in states that increasingly don't align with our core convictions. Some won't want to live in a state where a woman can choose to abort an unborn child. Others are not going to tolerate a home state where gay people are considered to have chosen their lifestyle. So, Washington Post, battle imminent, country ready for a seismic split, and this is coming up. Here you go, the Washington Post. This week, while we're talking about Republicans campaigning on executing fellow Republicans, and we're talking about Supreme Court justices being intimidated, and the federal government will do absolutely nothing to protect them. But to make it even worse, and I mean just pour fuel on the fire, this week, the Supreme Court, and maybe you didn't hear this, but decided to expand gun rights. With the nation already divided about Roe v. Wade, they decided to add gun rights. And you're not even hearing about this because everybody's still upset about Roe v. Wade, but the Supreme Court massively overturned gun regulations. In a major expansion of gun rights after a series of mass shootings, the Supreme Court said Thursday that Americans have a right to carry firearms in public for self-defense. Americans have a right to carry firearms in public for self-defense, a ruling likely to lead to more people legally armed. So about 1/4 of the U.S. lives in states expected to be affected by the ruling. So they struck down a New York gun law that says you can't just have guns on you and walk around in public. And now that they did that, California, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Rhode Island. California, Hawaii, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Rhode Island all have laws similar to New York. Those laws are expected to be quickly challenged. So California, your gun regulations that say you can't just open carry and not everybody gets to just carry a gun around them with them wherever they go has been struck down by the Supreme Court, which means the Supreme Court is now going to increase the amount of people who can open carry and just carry guns in public, something that hasn't happened in California since. I remember my dad doing this as a child when it was legal, sometime when I was 12. I'm 45 now. We're talking at least 30 plus years since before you could generally have guns on you wherever you went. That's gone. And now California, for decades, 2 generations, has had the ability to prohibit people from just having open carrying guns everywhere, like in the Midwest. Now the Supreme Court struck down the New York law, which means it strikes down the California law, which means in California, there's going to be a lot more people with open carry. So you just saw how Republicans are saying, hey, let's shoot fellow Republicans who we don't like. The left is saying it's cool to intimidate and are not willing to criticize the lack of security and the potential for death of the highest legal officers. The Washington Post at the same time says, seems like we're here for an insurmountable public split. That's their conclusion at the same time. And the Supreme Court said, hey, liberal states, you know how you've for generations not had people do open carry? We're going to take that away from you. At the same time, we took away your ability to ensure a woman's right to have an abortion. Those are 2 big value judgments coming from the Supreme Court, and they're massively going to rile up liberals. So This was just an excerpt in the amount of discussion in violence and acceptability of violence across the political spectrum in America recently, a little bit before, and certainly exacerbated because of Roe v. Wade and winding up even more. As we've said, watch out for civil war. Well, things got even worse after we said that. Let's take a look at some of the comments. James Young, my buddy from the South. Hey, buddy, I have seen some in some municipalities biting American flag. The great divorce is already happening. The USSA is unstable. Peaceful divorce is the only solution. Completely agree. There may be a mass exodus from red states to blue states. Maybe it'd be a good thing if it does not turn like Pakistan and India partition. Sure. Burning USA flag and India and Pakistan separation. This separation has to be peaceful. And an empire of the USA is over. Okay. I think we're on a brink of civil chaos and it should be separated peacefully. We completely agree with you, James. As a moderate, that is cringe on so many levels. Yeah, that is cringe video. And Jason, insurmountable means it cannot be dealt with, cannot be circumvented, nothing can be done. So that's the Washington Post. Jason's talking about the Washington Post comment that we are insurmountably divided, that they said literally overlapping the same time where you're seeing an uptick in violence on the left and an uptick in violence on the right. And then the Supreme Court said, let's just flood the country with even more guns. Jason says, yes, James, the people suffer the most. James is right, and Jason agrees with him, and so does Devil War. The USA is falling. Guys, we'll have another show where I'll have you on, but I just wanted to get this quick info out. A lot of things are developing exceptionally quickly because of Roe v. Wade. So we want to make sure to get this news to you so that you knew about the increase in violence in America that's going on right now, and that you could be prepared for it. Again, we do not condone violence. We are committed to legal, peaceful separation. But the reason that we're committed to that is because we said violence is coming, and this is the only way to stop it. We'll see you again. I'll have another episode of National Divorce Talk Raw coming up in just a few minutes. We'll see you there, and we'll invite some guests for comments. See you soon.